Hi, I'm Carrie Paul, and welcome to CoBE Navigator, your guide to success. Transferring to university is exciting, but can also come with a lot of questions. Will your credits transfer? What resources are available to help you succeed? And what should you expect as a transfer student, especially transferring to the College of Business and Economics at UW-Whitewater? Today, we're answering those questions and more with someone who helps students navigate the transfer process every day. Today, I'm joined by Tyler Becker, our undergraduate recruiter for the College of Business and Economics at UW-Whitewater. Tyler, thanks for joining us today.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me. I'm honored.
Can you maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah. So I am an alumni from Whitewater myself. I spent some time outside of higher education after I graduated, and I've done a few different things as far as technical recruiting for corporations in the Milwaukee region. I was a project manager for a few years, and then I also help out coaching some wrestling here as well. So I had a little different path back to Whitewater, but been in this role for about 3 years now, and have been enjoying it very much so.
And you were a transfer student yourself to Whitewater, correct?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was. So I transferred a couple times actually. So I have a lot of experience in the transfer realm.
Excellent. So let's start off by students transfer to Whitewater from a variety of places, such as community colleges, technical colleges, and other universities, and for a variety of reasons. Can you maybe tell us some of the most common reasons students might choose to transfer to Whitewater and CoBE specifically?
Yeah. So I think first and foremost is the fact that we just established our brand and our reputation very well in this region, and to be very respected by employers in this region, and when it comes to our business program specifically. I think that students realize that, and they see that, and they're talking to people that they know in the area, and yeah, our business programs come up quite a bit when you talk about that. I think that's definitely one reason. And the value of our degree, I think, definitely. It kind of gives, I like to call it the best of both worlds, is what I call it. And that's just because, you are, for students, for example, looking for, obviously some of us are on a budget, right? Can't afford to pay, hundreds of thousands of dollars for a college degree, but you also don't want to sacrifice that rigor or the value of the diploma or the degree as well. So I do think we kind of land in the middle there as far as, being affordable, but also, having the accreditations and that rigor and that kind of that reputation that I was talking about before as well. So, I do think that's a big thing as far as students transferring here. And as far as our online courses and our online programs, I think there's even different reasons for our online students that transfer. I think a lot of our adult working students that are doing our online programs, I've heard from them quite a bit about how much they love our asynchronous format. It's very flexible for them. They very much enjoy that flexibility of being able to still work, still have a family, but able to get that work done whenever it's most convenient for them. So, I've heard in the last few years being in this position that students transferring from other online programs, even they say that they really appreciate that format.
And you kind of alluded to this a little bit then. So, what are some of the kind of things students tell you that they're looking for in making that final decision to transfer?
Yeah, so obviously that's, somewhat as far as that, especially with the online, obviously that's a pretty big thing that they're looking for as far as that flexibility, being able to, still work full time and still get that work done. But also in regards to our online programs is what I also hear quite a bit is they're looking for real people to connect with, right? And real professors and resources so some other online programs, they're not necessarily available to them. They're, just getting a lot of recordings and they're not really talking to real people. And so I've heard from those students that that's something that they were looking for as far as maybe getting into a program where they're connecting with real people, either whether that be the students or whether that be the professors. teaching the classes, that they really do appreciate being able to reach out to real people and talk to them and have that connection. So I think that's something that students are looking for when they transfer, and they definitely get that here. Now, every student obviously has a unique path as far as their path here. But, definitely I hear quite a bit is I want to get a business degree from an accredited program, right? So I think that's one thing that our transfer students are looking for a lot too.
And you kind of touch on like best of both worlds, right? Being the largest business school in the state, but you're part of a smaller group that still has that student interaction, that one-on-one connection, and people for it. You also kind of allude to, so part 2 of our podcast will be talking about once a student's admitted, what that actual transfer process and kind of the steps after that looks like too. One of the biggest concerns students have is whether their credits will transfer and how they'll apply to the requirements within their new program. Can you maybe talk about some of that fear students have and what they can kind of do to overcome that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, probably the question I get the most from transfer students, right? I mean, I know time is of the essence, and it's very important to them to kind of know what that looks like. So yeah, I get that question quite a bit, but I think I advise students that are looking to transfer to reach out to that school that you'd like to transfer to. I think that's the best first step. Just to kind of get an idea of what you're looking at when you go to that new institution. I know personally that I really love it when students are proactive about this, and so that I can help them prepare as best as they can and be as efficient as possible in that transition. I actually help students all the time by giving them preliminary unofficial transcript reviews so that they can get an idea of what transferring would look like before going through the official process of applying and, paying for the official transcripts to get sent. So it is very nice to be able to get into that process with some clarity instead of, going into that process blind. So yeah, I mean, I think, definitely reaching out to kind of get an idea of what you're looking at as far as your next institution.
Because I think it's one, you can find information on websites, but to know how, because each college and university is a little bit different as far as requirements. So that's where you being a person can help, right? Going back to contacting and how each one meets. And something that sometimes our students is policies. Each university might be a little bit different in how policies apply.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's like you said, you can look up online and you can, find some information on the websites, which is always great. But I think, having that kind of like what we were talking about before is having that personal connection and being able to maybe, talk to someone about that and get a little bit more of the nuances that you might not find online.
And I think sometimes some of the questions students have is, if they're unsure about credits might transfer or not, like what is kind of a process that you go through with a student to figure out if they do transfer and how they might apply to something? I know you kind of mentioned that unofficial review initially. What does that kind of look like a little bit more in depth?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is something, and we were kind of talking about tools, right? And things on the website. So I use transferologylab.com quite often. Students can make their own profiles as well. And they can, kind of go in there and see, how each course would transfer to each institution specifically. So that's something I use. But yeah, like I kind of mentioned in my last question, in the last answer, I should say, I give a unofficial transcript review where it shows not only how those courses transfer, but how they're relative and they relate to the actual degree that you want, right? Because we have a lot of students that get confused as far as transferability and credits, and they say, well, these credits will transfer. But not always will they go towards maybe specific degree requirements for that degree that you're, pursuing. So I try to give students, the best insight as far as that goes to really know, okay, yes, these credits are all transferable. These specific credits are actually, relative to the degree that you're seeking here. And then these may not be, right? So it kind of breaks down into a few different areas as far as are they transferable or not? And then are they actually going towards, degree requirements? And then obviously from that, we can kind of calculate together how many more credits they would need to finish that degree, how much time that would take. And obviously we can kind of talk that through with each other. But that's kind of the process that I like to do with the students, and just to give them as much clarity as possible.
And I think if we're kind of talking about our online students, so for example, face-to-face classes tend to be offered more frequently every semester or every fall, spring. Where online classes, for example, it might be a fall only, a spring only. So I think another service or benefit those students will get in connecting with you is doing that tentative plan of when, specifically the online students, when those classes might be offered, so they also get a general idea how long it might take.
Exactly. No, that's exactly it.
So kind of switching gears a little bit of how our transfer students might get connected. Again, we'll expand a little bit more in episode 2 of our kind of transfer process, but you probably get some of these questions about students and how they're going to get connected to campus or make connections. Can maybe talk about some of those initial opportunities for those students as they move through this process.
Yeah. So that's something that we definitely focus on here. We're in comprehensive education institutions, so we're very much focused on those students getting those connections. And I personally think that's very important. I think, as a transfer student myself, again, that was definitely crucial as far as me feeling, involved and welcome, and kind of losing that imposter syndrome when I got here to campus, because I definitely had it. But being in groups and being in sports, that really did help me quite a bit. Kind of have that community right away, right? So I think student organizations are the best place to start. Now they're free. That's a good start. But there's so many on campus here, and especially in our College of Business and Economics, and all of the student organizations are focused on getting that hands-on experience outside of the classroom, networking with alumni, networking with partnered employers and corporate sponsors and hiring managers in the region, right? We're very much focused on connecting our students with all those opportunities. So those student organizations, I think, is the best place to start, because not only, like I said before, it's a very low overhead, right? And you don't have to commit too much right away to get the benefits out of it, right? Now, a lot of our student organizations, they do travel, they do compete, they do a lot of stuff like that, but you don't necessarily have to do that to reap the benefits of that organization and networking. So, and also just feeling connected, right? I mean, that's kind of where this question started, right?
Yep.
But I think that's very important, and to someone's success as far as being here on campus.
Perfect.
Yeah, and on top of that, obviously, we actually host a lot of career networking fairs as well. So we have our career fair that's on campus annually. It's very large, and we also have department-specific career days and networking days. So on top of the student organizations, those are also great days to kind of meet people in the industry, meet people that are kind of in similar career positions that you want to be in, right? And kind of pick their brains and learn kind of the path or best path to get to where you want to be.
Excellent. And I think it's one of those where we have it. It also is on part of that ownership of the student to take that step, right?
Definitely.
Like, you can't wait for everybody to come to you, but we are happy to let you know everything that exists for you.
Yeah, and you gotta get yourself out of that comfort zone in the first, especially in that first semester or two. It's easy to go to class and come back, right? And that's something that I definitely did for the first few weeks. But once you get outside of that comfort zone, and you really do appreciate that, and like I said, you kind of find your people, right, and like-minded people. Once you find some like-minded people, and it really makes your time here a little bit more enjoyable, I'd say.
Embrace the awkwardness.
Yes.
And after that, it's only awkward if you make it awkward.
Right. That's a great way to put it.
So kind of switching gears again a little bit, like talking about kind of the resources for transfer students to be kind of successful. What do you think are some of the key resources that we have available for these students as they kind of navigate, starting with us, with every student being kind of behind, or not behind, but on their own path a little bit?
Yeah. So, as far as, as far as CoBE resources, are you talking about?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, we have quite a bit, and that kind of just goes off of what we were talking about before, right? Is helping those students build confidence outside of the classroom, and getting that hands-on experience as much as possible. But as far as the resources we offer, I mean, it's specific to the College of Business and Economics are, first and foremost are advisors, both career advisors and academic advisors. Those are going to be definitely your first point of contacts whenever you have questions, or your career advisor will be assigned to you, and you'll have obviously them to go to for any first level questions. And then we also have our academic success coach. So we actually added that Justin. He's awesome. He was a professor in our accounting department prior to this position. But this is something new within the last year or so that we added for our College of Business and Economics students. And so that is, just some more success or academic coaching in the quantitative areas. So obviously we have, quantitative courses that all of our business majors have to take is along the lines of accounting and economics and finance. We have saw kind of a pattern of our non-quantitative majors kind of struggling in those courses a little bit. So we added some more resources as far as our academic success coaching center, or sorry, I should say our academic success center, coached by Justin. But yeah, I mean that's a great resource that we've been able to add this last year, and so I mean not to mention the advisors as well.
And to kind of give a little bit as a student kind of comes to campus. So if you are a face-to-face student transferring to Whitewater, you'll attend a SOAR day. And so during that, they'll kind of give you some insight into what to expect and kind of get you on track or stay on track with some of the items to get you set for starting. And then as an online transfer student, you are, as soon as you're admitted, assigned a online advisor from day one. So they'll walk you through a kind of virtual orientation and then signing up for classes as well. So as we kind of shift, what are some of the common mistakes to avoid for transfer students? So I know you've worked with many transfer students over the years. Can you talk about some of the mistakes you've seen students have during the transfer process?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this can be both personally and from the students I've worked with, right? But that's how it goes. You always want to, help the other generation learn from your mistakes, right? So that's why I do enjoy this position quite a bit as well. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely some common things I run into in the last few years with working with transfer students. And I wouldn't necessarily call this a mistake. But something I see quite a bit is a student with, a technical certificate or an applied associate's degree, trying to complete their bachelor's degree. And, this one just came to mind right away because I always feel for these people, when they do necessarily, like, I go through that transcript review process that I was talking about previously. They usually are the ones that are a little bit, unhappy or a little bit down about how their credits transferred. And this is another reason why I was saying reach out early, right? Be proactive about this before you finish your, first degree. And a lot of times these students are students that didn't necessarily plan on getting a bachelor's degree. So it's hard to plan ahead if you
Right.
don't necessarily think you're going to do that. But if you do, and you know that you're going to, transfer onto a bachelor's degree from maybe a technical program, my advice would definitely be to pursue the more general Associate of Arts or the Associate of Science degree. And in some colleges, they call this the liberal arts transfer degree. Some colleges, they'll call that just their Associate of Arts, right? So it's different other places. But the reason I say this is because those degrees, you're going to be taking a vast amount of general education courses, where compared to those technical diplomas in the applied associate's degree I mentioned earlier, you are not. You're taking a little bit more classes in a very specific niche area. And so those degrees, as far as the technical diplomas and applied associate's degrees, they just don't transfer as well towards a bachelor's degree than that, general associate's degree or that liberal arts transfer associate's degree would. So if you plan on transferring to bachelor's degree, you want to save some money, maybe going to a technical school and going that route. That's okay. I would just, like I said, very much encourage you to be proactive about that. Reach out to the schools that you're planning to transfer to, and then also be mindful of the, associate's degree or the classes that you're taking before you transfer. But yeah, like I said, I mean, if you reach out before you do that, I love helping students with taking classes at the technical college as far as being efficient in that way, taking classes that we know that will transfer towards the degree that you want. This is something that I did not do, and now looking back, I definitely wish I did, but also hope that other students can kind of take advantage of that and make sure that they're doing it as efficiently as possible, because we all know college, it's not cheap. Right. It's affordable here, but it's still, it's still quite a bit of money to most of us. So if we can do that as efficient as possible, then why not? Right.
And I think it's one of those where we want to be as transparent as possible. And so you might be coming in with that technical degree, but now let's look at what your options are in best case scenario for that time that you still want to graduate in.
Exactly.
For.
Right.
What are a few things students can do before arriving on campus or getting admitted that will help make the transition smoother for them?
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of along the lines of being proactive, right? I mean, it just getting ahead of things is always the best way to go, but connect with their academic advisor. Definitely reach out to them. You'll be assigned to them before you get here on campus. And so within that, first semester, or even before you arrive, I definitely would reach out to them just to ensure that you're on the right track and that, everything transferred well, right? As far as classes and, if something's on your transcript that you may, think, oh, well, I did take this class and that's on my transcript. Well, you can talk to your advisor about that and we can maybe get that course reviewed. We can double check that for you, right? We want to be thorough and we want to make sure that you're not retaking any classes that you haven't taken in the past. So definitely connect with your advisor. And then also, I would say start looking into the activity schedule for the first semester. Start marking some things down that look interesting to you, maybe some student organizations that look interesting to you, maybe some volunteer opportunities or positions on campus that look interesting to you. So that way, when you do get to campus, you're prepared for that. And that way, you don't miss those events, or, you can be one of the first people to apply for some of those types of things. So yeah, definitely get ahead on that and just kind of check the schedule. Because when you do get to campus, it does move pretty fast.
Yep.
So yeah.
And I think if we're a thing I often see too, and you can correct me if it's not common or not, but making sure when you do submit those final transcripts for the classes.
Great point.
Because a lot of times when you're transferring, you're in the middle of like a semester. And so you might not have those final grades yet, or you have a transcript from somewhere else. And so we want to make sure, again, to your point of you're taking only the classes that you need, but we need to make sure we know what those classes are and the grades that you got in them.
Well, of course, right. I mean, yeah, we can't help you unless we have all the documents there. So yes, definitely that's a common thing we'll see at the end of the summer.
And don't be afraid to ask questions. Like if you have a class that sounds similar to something that we have, it might not be in transferology yet because it's never been looked at. And so help us continue to build that database for them to use.
Yep.
Excellent. So as we kind of wrap up a little bit, maybe talk about why transfer students do succeed here at Whitewater and what makes them successful in that process.
Yeah, I think, students that are successful, I think, develop a support group and a good routine as soon as possible. I think that is, very important as far as succeeding when you do transfer. I mean, it's a transition nonetheless, right? It doesn't matter if you had good routine or good habits wherever you were before. It is a change, and so you do have to develop those new habits and that new routine, and also a support group, whether that be in that student organization or whether that be an on-campus job or whether that be a sports team or whatever that group may be. Find some like-minded people to be able to lean on, because I'm sure you've heard this phrase before, but we can go further together than we ever have gone alone, right? And I know this is cheesy, but I really do believe in that. I really do. And I think, once you kind of have those other people around you to kind of lean on, and you can lean on each other, and you're comfortable asking, those people questions, it's very important as far as making an environment that's, indicative of success here. So, I think that's a very important thing. And I know that's kind of generally speaking, right? But, I think that's very important as far as making that transition as best as possible.
And I think we always tell everybody, don't be afraid to ask the question. We might not be that end person, but there's something unique in the whitewater water that we are going to get you to the person that can help you. But we don't know if you don't ask either.
Exactly. Right.
So some kind of final takeaways is keep in mind you're not starting over. You're building on experiences and knowledge and credits you've already earned. And the College of Business and Economics has resources, faculty, staff, and either also fellow students who started here or also transferring with you to help make your transition successful. Ask questions, get involved, and definitely connect with your academic advisors, because taking advantage of these opportunities available to you from day one will help you succeed to your ultimate goal. Do you have any final takeaways that you want to add?
No, I think you did pretty well there. I think just utilize all these resources available to
Mhm.
you, right? I mean, there's a reason why, we preach this, and we've been through it before, and we understand. So, utilize all these resources that we have available for you. Get out of that comfort zone, like I was saying before, and don't be afraid to ask, and you won't regret it.
Tyler, thanks for joining us and sharing your insights about transferring to UW-Whitewater and the College of Business and Economics. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll dive into now that you're admitted and what to expect with one of our academic advisors. Thank you again for listening to CoBE Navigator, your guide to success. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to check out our other episodes designed to help you navigate your academic journey and make the most of your experience in the College of Business and Economics at UW-Whitewater. We'll see you next time.